aquatic warbler experts across Europe. Greetings from Bavaria in Germany. I hope you are all well and in good health. Some of you might know I used to work for the RSPB in the United Kingdom, the BirdLife partner in the UK. And in fact, it's wonderful to see it's big. We haven't met for a long time. Spig and I, we used to work together very closely at the RSPB. Today, I'm running a conservation organization called the Bavarian Society for the Protection of Birds in Bavaria. And we continue to support APB, so the international work continues. Dear OTOP, congratulations on your 30th anniversary, and thank you very much for organizing this very important and very exciting symposium on the aquatic warbler. It's excellent to see you all from so many countries, people from so many countries, all interested in the aquatic warbler. Unfortunately, we are all now looking into a computer screen rather than meeting in person. It would be so much better to sit together now in Poland or in Belarus or in Lithuania and talk about aquatic warbler. It is not possible for the time being, but I'm sure it soon will be, and I'm looking forward to this. In fact, I haven't seen an aquatic warbler for the best part of 2 years now, and I think you will all agree this is not acceptable. So we really need to get together, hopefully later this year, hopefully in Poland or in Belarus. Again, today we are talking about the aquatic warbler, and this is not for the first time and hopefully not for the last time. Over the last 25 years, well, it is now 25 years since the aquatic warbler has been discovered in Belarus. Until then, we thought the bird population is concentrated in Poland, but we now know, of course, there are several other countries where this bird does now breed. 25 years is a long time, and when I look around, some of you might not even have been born then. I'm thinking back to the legendary aquatic warbler trip to Belarus in May 1995, led by Martin Flade and Alexander Kozelin. I've seen Alexander's name. I think he's with us today, which is fantastic. Martin's name I haven't seen. He's probably just finishing a paper and will join us later. A lot has happened since then, lots of field trips, research projects, and conferences. And in fact, when you look around the conservation, the bird conservation scene, there are many conferences on single species. Very often, enthusiastic people meet and they make big plans. And after the conference, the whole thing gets forgotten. This was not the case with the aquatic warbler. As I said, the aquatic warbler work now continued for a quarter of a century. People from a number of countries were cooperating closely in order to learn more about these species and protect this. I cannot think of any other species, at least not passerine songbird species, where this is the case. Over a quarter of a century, a lot of conservation work has been done on aquatic warbler, and lots of friends have been made. Conservation work in so many countries, from Poland and Belarus and Germany, to Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania, and all the way down to the wintering grounds in Senegal. In 1995, the aquatic warbler was probably one of the least known passerine birds in Europe. Today, I think we can say it is, in terms of knowledge about its distribution and its ecology, probably one of the best known species. To keep work like this going, you need people who care. And all of you know, for the aquatic warbler, Martin Flade has always been the driving force behind this aquatic warbler work. No other name is so closely connected to the aquatic warbler than the name Martin Flade. And Martin, I don't know whether he's now with us. If not, I'll talk to him later. Martin, this is to say thank you for all you did for the aquatic warbler and the aquatic warbler conservation team over such a long period. The aquatic warbler brought people together from many countries, and I hope this will continue, and I'm looking forward to another 25 years of aquatic warbler work. And of course, I'm looking forward to meeting many of you in the near future, not by video, but in person. Until then, I'm looking forward to this conference, to this symposium. All the best from Bavaria, and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Norbert. Martin is already with us, and during this welcome session at the end of the welcoming from our international guest, I would ask Martin to give some words during this session. So he will also chair the first session of the symposium. But now, Martin, floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. Sorry for delay. I was in my office in the morning. I'm very happy that we have this meeting today, and I'm very grateful to Jarek and OTOP that he enabled this conference. Our last conference is of this size is 3 years ago. I will talk about it a little bit later. And it's for me very valuable to get an update about the state of the running projects and the situation in the countries, which we will get in the next hours today. And I'm very glad that we can take the opportunity to have an Aquatic Warbler conservation team working meeting tomorrow at noon or in the afternoon. Yeah, Norbert said a lot of things, which I would also like to say already, especially about this huge teamwork across so many countries and even continents. And the long story we have experienced in the last 30 years. So I will not repeat that, only to say that I'm very happy to see you all here on the screen and that I'm looking forward to have this conference. Thank you very much, Jarek.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin. So now we will turn into Poland. Maybe it's not polite that I was asked to wait the lady at the end, not at the first. But I would like to ask now Sylwia Gawrońska from the General Directorate for Environmental Protection. She is the coordinator of Wetland Committee. We are working together within this committee, and it is a very important body for the aquatic warbler protection and generally for the mire protection. So I would like to ask Sylwia Gawrońska to give some words at the very start. Thank you.
Thank you, Jarek. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to each and every of you for being here with us today. I'm very pleased to be able to welcome all participants of the symposium. My name is Sylwia Gawrońska, and I play a role of the national focal point on the Ramsar Convention in Poland, which is placed in General Directorate of Environmental Protection. And for sure you know that Ramsar Convention protects all kinds of wetlands, peatlands, mires, bogs, fish ponds, rivers, lakes, and of course, that includes the habitats of aquatic warbler. And we all realize that the occurrence of aquatic warbler in an environment is an indicator of high quality of environment, favorable status of biodiversity, high water level, good quality of water, and also wise and sustainable management of the land. And in Polish Secretariat of the Ramsar Convention, we have established Wetlands Committee, which is the advisory group of the wetlands managers, scientists, decision makers, who make an effort to improve the status of the wetlands. OTOP is one of the members of the committee, so we talk, but also listen each other, educate each other, and try to find the platform of agreement. the amount of work which was made by NGOs, institutions, and landowners, especially farmers, is enormous, and the big part of this work made OTOP for the last 30 years of their involvement and excellent work. That's why I would say thank you, and thanks for this work. In the near future, for sure, we will talk about it also. We are looking forward for a new life project which aims to protect aquatic warbler in natural and little degraded pillbox in Poland and in Ukraine and Germany. So we cross fingers for this project. And I don't want to take too much time, and just want to say that the wetlands are essential for aquatic warbler. That's why we try to protect it from different sides, from establish and implement law, make some projects, encourage farmers to carry out agri-environmental climate schemes. And but also the aquatic warbler is essential for healthy wetlands, for healthy environments, and nowadays for healthy people as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are perfect in time. We have just finished our welcome session, and we can turn into the first session of our symposium. It is focused on the aquatic warbler population in Europe, in Poland, and will contain 3 presentations. The session will be chaired by Martin Flade, but as his presentation is the first, so I will announce it and ask Martin to take the floor and give the presentation about the aquatic warbler breeding population in European range country. So Martin, the floor is yours. Please start your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully this works.
According to recent our training, it works quite well.
Yeah, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
No, it should work. You should see my screen.
Can you enlarge a little bit, because it's just not full screen, real?
Mm-hmm. No.
No, okay, so let's do it.
Maybe I can minimize this view here. Wait a moment. Yeah, no.
But it's also great.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
so I will start. So I will talk about aquatic warbler breeding populations in Europe and worldwide, of course, and give a brief overview on the current state and dynamics. Yeah, as I just mentioned, the last joint conference we had was 3 years ago at Brodowin, where I'm now, also, and that have been 40 people from 12 countries, including participants from Senegal and Morocco. And yeah, was the last time that we could be all together and discuss this topic, the state of the population and running projects. And in Corona times, it looks really nice that it was possible to meet, to just meet, drink a beer together and discuss. And you can see a lot of prominent people here on the pictures, like Andrzej Dürch and Karl Schulze-Hagen. And of course, it was a launch of the Aquatic Warbler Conservation Handbook, which was edited by Franziska on the left hand and Justina Kubacka on the right hand. And most of the knowledge we have on the aquatic warbler is summarized in this handbook. And what I will do now is only to give a brief summary on the status which is already described in the handbook and some updates. Not over all countries, but on some countries. So as you know, the aquatic warbler is the most threatened passerine bird of Central Europe and classified as vulnerable at a global scale. And but it's not only the aquatic warbler, it's also the habitat, the landscape where it is living, like the Svanets here in Belarus. So the huge fen mares are its habitat, and connected with the fen mares there is a huge number of species which live in these fen mares and depend on these habitats. And when we talk about aquatic warblers, as already was said before in the welcome session, we always talk about the entire biodiversity. Yeah, how is the situation in the breeding sites at the moment? This map is from the Aquatic Warbler Conservation Handbook, and there you can see the mires, the mire areas which are occupied by aquatic warblers. And this is a main reason, or one main reason, that the aquatic warbler is listed as vulnerable on the IUCN red list, that the area of occupancy, so the true, the really occupied area is less than 400 square kilometers. Of course, you see the major breeding sites, Biebsza. I think you can see the arrow, huh? the pointer. Then Yaselta Valley, then Upper Pripyat area, Chelm marshes and Lublin area, and central Ukraine. But in the last 20 years, we have lost a lot of its range. So we have lost the tiny breeding population in Siberia. The last breeding time records are from the year 2000. But in the meanwhile, in 2011, we lost the Hungarian population for unknown reasons. We really don't know why. This population has disappeared within a few years. We will see it later. And we are going to lose the Pomeranian population. So range contraction is going on. And I think this is the most alarming, alarming development we have to state and we have to work against. This map is also from the Aquatic Warbler Conservation Handbook, and there is indicated the population size. And this is the average population size in the time from 2007 to 2016. And of course, you can see that there's a Central European core population in Eastern Poland and Southwest Belarus and North West Ukraine, which is still containing more than 90%, more than 95%, I think, of the global population within this small area at the borders of these three countries. And then the central Ukrainian population and the Lithuanian population, Servech in the north of Belarus, and the Pomeranian population. So this is the chart of the mean population estimates of these 10 years, also from the Conservation Handbook. And you can see that we have approximately 1/3 of the global population each in Belarus, Ukraine, and Eastern Poland, and then the small other marginal populations, which have partly disappeared in Pomerania and Hungary. So, and these are the known population sizes in the three main countries. And in Belarus, you can see that the population has declined substantially since 2007, 2008. The last national estimate is from 2017. That's not included in the Conservation Handbook, I think. And so the decline has several reasons. We will have a contribution by Sasha Kozulin, I think, later today. He will tell us more details. But there are two factors which are combined at the moment. One is the ongoing loss of habitat through vegetation succession, overgrown with bushes and so on. And the other factor is a series of dry years, mainly in 2015-16 and 2018 to 2020, with low water tables and large areas of habitat being dry. In the most recent years, the population development might be more positive again, more increasing. We will hear it from Sasha Kozulin, thanks to management in the major breeding site Svanets through water management, improved water management, and also habitat management, for instance, a controlled burning, which was practiced in the last years. So we will hear about later. Then in Ukraine, the population figures are not so good than in the other countries because Ukraine is a huge country and it was not possible to count all the local populations completely. But we have the monitoring data collected by Anatoly Poluda, and he has his monitoring transects and plots, which he visits every year. He continues to do it. So we have, for this reason, also population estimates from the last years up to 2020. And it looks like that also the Ukrainian population is declining. In the last years, mainly through droughts, lack in precipitation and low water tables in Upper Pripyat, and especially in the central Ukrainian breeding sites, Desna Dnieper population, which has declined in the last 3 years by 3 times, from 400 to 500 to 130, I think. But we will hear it in detail by Anatoly. And Ukraine is the only of the major breeding countries where we have no large-scale habitat management until now. So we have some habitat management on a local scale, like at Birki in Upper Pripyat, but we did not have a big project, a live project or something like that, which would enable us to implement large-scale habitat management against vegetation succession and abandonment. And hopefully we have this opportunity with the applied EU Life project, with the application from February. We will know later this year. So, and Poland is the country of hope. We don't have population estimates for each year, but the quality of data is very high. So the dots which are indicated there have very narrow confidence limits. And we can see that population in Eastern Poland has increased since 2007. Probably has nearly doubled in the last 12 years or 14 years. And this is due to large-scale habitat management, mainly in Biebsza, initiated and implemented through 2 big EU Life projects, and also in Chelm marshes and Lublin area, there was large-scale habitat management. And this proves that it is possible to stop the decline and even to turn the curve towards increase. So coming now to the smaller populations. In Hungary, you can see this population crashes in 2002 and 2006. There were some fire events and also flood, but these events cannot explain this complete population crash and disappearance of the population in 2011. The habitats in Hungary are still in a good condition. We cannot explain this development by local habitat conditions. And I think we have to think about a reintroduction of the Hungarian population, maybe by translocation in future. So then we have the Pomeranian population. It's, disastrous development, despite habitat management and restoration of habitats at the Polish side and at the German side. It was not possible to hold this population. In the last year, I think there were still 5 singing males in Roswarowo marshes, and then 1 or 2 at other sites. But I think that the population has been too small to keep it, to save it with this habitat management, which was introduced in the last 10 years. We were just too late, I think. We'll come back to it later, but one main objectives of the new LIFE project application is to restore the Pomeranian population by translocation also. So, and just the opposite in Lithuania, a big population increase up to 325, I think, single males in the last year. It was down to nearly 50 in 2013. And this is really also a result, an effect of habitat management, of very successful habitat management in Lithuania by a big EU LIFE project. Žymantas Morkvėnas will tell us about, and also ongoing improvement of habitats, and also this new, or not new, but running Belarusian Lithuanian LIFE project. Magni Ducatus Acrola, I think, is the name. which is in implementation just now, also including first successful translocation of juvenile aquatic warblers. We will hear about later today. So Lithuania again proves that it is possible to turn the trend. If the habitat management is good and if the population is not too small, and it proves also that translocation of juveniles and re-establishment of populations is possible. So I think the main threat for the breeding population is not anymore habitat destruction, but abandonment of agricultural use and overgrowing with trees and bushes. That is
Martin,
yeah. Okay,
3 minutes left, but
yeah,
you can extend a little bit.
No, I don't need. I'm nearly finished.
Good.
I only want to summarize that this is the major threat in the breeding countries, also in Belarus, also in Ukraine, and we need strategies to cope with it. And you in Poland, you found these strategies in these two LIFE projects from 2005 to 2010, and the biomass use project in 2011 to 2015. Yeah, of course, you in Poland know it best. Large areas are actively managed and in a good state at the moment. So, and this I think is my last slide. In 2018, we decided priorities or set priorities for our future work. That was the further development of sustainable methods of fen-mire management and biomass use. And there was especially in the need in Belarus and Ukraine, and is still. The implementation of the EU LIFE project in Belarus and Lithuania, which is running, we will hear about. We decided that it's urgently needed to do further research on migration and wintering of the aquatic warbler. We will have a presentation on this topic in the afternoon. And we decided to push this application forward for a new EU LIFE project. So the first attempts were not successful yet, but I have big hope that our last application will be successful. And we said that monitoring of productivity through ringing schemes in France and Iberian Peninsula would be very helpful. We will hear about by Christine Blaise how it developed in the last years. And we said it would be important to search for initiatives, approaches to support aquatic warbler conservation in Africa. I will talk a little bit about in the afternoon session. So thank you very much. Yeah, of course, thanks to many, many organizations, many supporters, many people who worked in the aquatic warbler conservation team. Yeah, I think it's still incomplete, this list, but it has to be shown. Yeah, thank you very much. Now I have to return to the meeting modus. Yes, very nice. I can see you all. You have survived my presentation. Yes, and now we have the chance to go in more detail, country by country. And this is very important for us to get these updates in a regular modus. So after 3 years, it's really needed to get this update together. And the next speaker on our schedule is Jarosław Krogulec, who will tell us the story of 30 years of aquatic warbler conservation in Poland. And yeah, he will give us more detailed information about the situation there. additionally to my overview. So Jarek, I know you, I don't know, since 25 years at least. And Jarek was always the engine in Poland for aquatic warbler conservation and aquatic warbler management and for new projects. And yeah, I think I don't need to tell more about you. You are our strong person in Poland for aquatic warbler. So please.
Thank you very much, Martin, for this kind invitation. Introduction, sorry. I will just present the talk about the 30 years of aquatic conservation in Poland, focus on involvement of the Polish Society for Protection of Birds on the conservation of the species. This is not a real scientific presentation, it's more or less just our story about the aquatic warbler and the work on this species. Maybe also a little too personal because I was involved in many of these issues. So how everything started? As I told you, we in OTOP we have 30 years old. We are grown up, but it started in the early 90s. From inspiration of the people from the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, but also from other international organizations. And within the RSPB project, Wings Over Europe, there was the group of the Polish researchers, scientists, invited to UK to show how the real NGO can work. May I point you that in 1990, we were just 1 year after the change of the political system in Poland, and for the first time, the true non-governmental organization can start. So in 1991, the Polish Society for the Protection of Birds were registered. So the first president of OTOP was Professor Maciej Gromadzki, together with Przemysław Chylarecki and Włodzimierz Meissner. There was 2 staff members, 1 director, Jacek Szostakowski, and also 1 representative, Tomasz Kiliński. So in the very beginning, the focus of the OTOP was on the important bird areas and on aquatic warbler. So I just took advantage and present you the first issue of our quarterly magazine, Ptaki Birds, where already they are stressed our main focus at the very beginning. There were 4 wetlands chosen for the protection. So Bielawa, Narew, Warta, and Chełm marshes. During that time, I was carrying research on the harriers in the Chełm marshes, and it was by chance we have discovered the aquatic warbler population there. So together then with a representative of ICDP, which is now BirdLife International, and RSPB with Richard Grimet and Kevin Stendring, we decided to make a more detailed conservation plan for this area. So we have invited different foreign visitors like Karl Schulze-Hagen to this area. And we prepared the first IBA records for the Chełm marshes. The results of this work was the management plan for Chełm, the first, sorry, not management, but action plan for the Chełm marshes. And based on this, in the following year, we have prepared first restoration project. Together with Magda Remisiewicz, now Professor Remisiewicz, we prepared the application to the EcoFund Foundation in Poland to restore drained mires in the Chełm area. And it was really big projects. Can you imagine 3 billion project, probably one of the largest conservation projects in Europe, 3 billion by one project. Of course, it was during the very high inflation rate, so you should cut 4 zeros from this. And it was focused on different issues, but also on the mire restoration. And it was effect of this after many years. So when we started to work on this area, the main habitat of aquatic warbler were retracted due to drainage. But after rewetting, we got 130 hectares of cladium mires in this area in 2016. And then aquatic warbler follows starting from 9 singing males in 97 up to even 118 in 2014. Unfortunately, during the current monitoring scheme, we make only transect count, and since 2014, we have no detailed information on every spot, including Błota Srebryskie mire. So we should discuss this approach in monitoring to improve it. And then from inspiration of RSPB, the first meeting for action plan for aquatic warbler in whole Europe take place in Ruda Milicka in Milicz fish ponds in 1993. So it was organized in Poland by OTOP, by Jacek Szostakowski, the first OTOP director, and also by Professor Dycz from Wrocław University, and was led by Borja Heredia during that time from BirdLife International. And of course, Nicola Crockford from Royal Society for Protection of Birds. So the first action plan for Europe was prepared in 1993. The next step of OTOP was to work on aquatic warbler in Western Pomerania. There was quite good inventory made by Ryszard Czeraszkiewicz on this area. And one of the major area was the Karsiborska Kępa. And first management plan for this area was prepared by OTOP in 1993. In 1995, in effect of support from BirdLife International, RSPB, and financial support from Swarovski Optics, the first nature reserve, which was not a state reserve, but owned by NGO, was established on Karsiborska Kępa and is up till now managed by OTOP. During that time, aquatic warbler was still present there, but you have learned already from Martin's presentation about the fates of aquatic warbler. So then, from inspiration of Norbert Schäfer, we start to turn into Biebrza mires. because up to 1995, there was no census of these large areas ever. So you can see here first our group with Professor Kloskowski and Professor Grzywaczewski, then still very young students, happy to make we name it to count uncountable. This is this paper from the Ptaki magazine prepared by Grzegorz Grzywaczewski, and eventually we managed in 2 years, 1995 and 97, to make full census on Biebrza marshes and then also in Poland. And this system of monitoring was run in some years during the years of 2003, 9, and 14, and then was switched into transit counts within monitoring of birds of Poland, and it will be just today explained by Krzysztof Stasiak. 1998, it's establishing of the BirdLife Aquatic Warbler Conservation Team from inspiration of Martin Flade. We met in Brodowin and summarized all the knowledge about the world population trends and conservation status of our brown bird. In Lublin, a few years ago, we made a few years later, sorry, we made the team meeting during one of the conference of the whole Aquatic Warbler team. During that time, it was, of course, in person. 2003 was the very important steps for Aquatic Warbler. I mean, it was the officially endorsing to prepare the memorandum of understanding within the Convention of Migratory Species, so the Bonn Convention. So this memorandum was signed in Belarus by many range countries. And within the memorandum, as an annex, there was action plan for aquatic warbler in Europe. For Poland, OTOP was involved for preparing this action plan points. So the meetings, this is the meeting in Minsk during this first conference. Then there was the other MOU meetings in Germany, in Kriven, but also during different, mainly aquatic warbler projects in Poland, within live projects, when we include also Mali in the memorandum, but then in Lithuania, in Vente, also during the aquatic warbler live project there. In the late 90s, the main problem in the open fen mares was succession, tree encroachment. So here are the figures from the Biebrza National Park Management Plan from that time. And as you can see, 15,000 of hectares were threatened by succession. So from inspiration of RSPB and others, there was the first meeting for preparing a live project for conservation of aquatic warbler in Germany and Poland. So it was great work inspired by RSPB, led by Norbert Schäfer, but also Lars Lachmann, who was the country program officer, and first then leader of the LIFE project. Of course, within all colleagues from Aquatic Warbler Conservation Team, Martin Flade, and whole group. So in Poland, we have two subsequent LIFE projects for conserving of aquatic warbler. First, was focused on Pomerania and Western Pomerania and Biebrza. The second was focused on Eastern Poland. So you know that the main effect of this project was inventing new technology for mowing large areas of mires. But then it was very important to have some economic incentives. And due to EU agro-environmental schemes within OTOP, we have developed the bird scheme and especially aquatic warbler scheme, and work together with Ministry of Agriculture to introduce it to the system. It was mainly the work of our agriculture officer, Marek Jobda, who is present with us now, and do his work. Such schemes can then be introduced in a rural development program. We are still working with Ministry of Agriculture for next programming period because it is very important. So in effect of the first LIFE project, 6,000 hectares of Biebrza National Park were mown, and some other were leased for farmers for mowing. In effect, 30 to 40 rat tracks operate by private owners. This is the effect of monitoring carried out by Piotr Marczakiewicz and Grzegorz Grzywaczewski, which shows this effect of these measures, mainly stabilization of population on large sites in Poland, in Dolina Biebrza and Bagno Ławki. The next LIFE project was focused on the project sites in the Eastern Poland. There was six sites, and together was 12,000 hectares of area. During this project, there was the research done by Justyna Kubacka and her team about the bird productivity on the mown areas after the first mowing, second mowing, and it was proved that extensive mowing is very important and supportive for not only singing males, but also for productivity of the aquatic warbler. So we know that proper habitat management in the area which is not which is prone on succession is very important. So in effect, such works were done in Chełm National Park and in Poleski National Park on Bubnów Myers. It is continued now by the Poleski National Park, led by Director Jarosław Szymański, who is also with us here. And it is now Bubnów Marshes in Poleski National Park is the stronghold of the population of aquatic warbler in Lublin region and one of the most important polysites. So in effect of the LIFE, we have increase of the population size, at least just after the LIFE. Then this figure was not so happy, but anyway, it is still the 9% increase per year in Poland. Only the recent very dry year in 2020, we have just the drop, but more details will be given by Krzysztof Stasiak in his presentation. And in fact, there was more and more breeding sites or just records of the aquatic warbler in whole Poland outside of these main areas. We made in 2014 the study for connection of Eastern and Western population using so-called stepping stone concept. So we can discuss it later in other. And in effect, we have prepared the project about the southeastern population of aquatic warbler in Poland. As it was within the project called Focus on the ecological corridors, we have decided, I mean, in the team with Krzysztof Stasiak and Justyna Choroś from OTOP, that we will connect the source areas in Poleski National Park and Hen Marshes with small other sites where aquatic warbler are recorded. And so we have chosen those sites, and some of them we prepared for restoration. I will explain you more in my future talk. So this is just the summary of the way of OTOP we are just passed by. And now we have developed two other projects where aquatic warbler and restoration of mares are included. One of them is this joint work together with our German, Ukrainian colleagues for restoration of the aquatic warbler habitats in Germany, Poland, and in Ukraine, in Pripyat-Stachit National Park. So hopefully we will receive. It is the project which were strongly supported by colleagues, financially supported by NABU. And then we also take part in this year call within Horizon 2020. So for the new, Green Deal project, where we were invited by the Institute of the Soil Science in Poland, who is the coordinator, to take part. And with Krzysztof Stasiak, we include two areas in this restoration project in Hanna River, so close to the Bug River, and in Karsiborska Kępa. So this is our future for OTOP, but of course it's the future for aquatic warbler. I was just shown all the steps, what was done by OTOP, but I should stress that it is not just our work, it's just a work of whole group of dedicated persons and institutions. So I'm named already Royal Society for Protection of Birds, Naturschutzbund in Germany, but also BirdLife International, and last but not least, aquatic warbler conservation teams and all our organizations from neighboring countries, from Germany, Lithuania, Belarus, and Ukraine. So thank you very much for this work, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, Jarek, thank you very much. Keeping in time very well. So we would have still 10 minutes for questions and comments if you want. So you are invited to raise your hands and to ask what you want to ask. I could imagine that when we will get the contributions on single topics, on special topics, we will get more questions and more discussion. So it's okay. It's no problem. That everything is clear, Jarek. Thank you. So then I can go to introduce Krzysztof Stasiak. It's a new face in our circle. Krzysztof is working with OTOP since 5 years and graduated from Lublin University, and he developed the Stepping Stone project in the Lublin area and is coordinating the Aquatic Warbler monitoring in Poland since, don't know, since 1-2 years. And he will...
This is 5 years. Hello.
Oh, it's all the time. Okay.
Yeah, no,
that's good to know. And he will introduce us in
Thank you
results.
very much.
Yeah.
Hello. I am the coordinator. This is the fifth year. I am the coordinator of the Aquatic Warbler monitoring. I started in 2007.
Okay.
Let me share the presentation. Yes. You should see my screen now, and after that it should start the full screen mode. And okay, is it visible? My screen here.
I think you can start the presentation, huh? Yeah. You're there, okay. Yes.
Sure, thank you.
Sometimes it lasts a little bit.
I will be talking about the aquatic warbler population in Poland.
Krzysztof, can you try again the presentation mode? Press more strongly this.
Sure, of course.
Yes, now it should work.
Yeah, this is. Okay, yeah. This will be the information about the state of the population, the source areas, and the small breeding sites. It is based mostly on the aquatic warbler monitoring, but also other information, because I am trying to gather all the information about the aquatic warbler that are available. This estimation on the center of the screen, about 4,050 singing males, is the most optimistic estimation. It was made at 2018, and this year it was a bit worse. I will say about the reasons. The latest published information about the estimation number of aquatic warbler population, it is in the red list of Polish birds, and it is something between 3,200 and 4,500 singing males in the country. And still we have to remember that we are talking about the Polish population, but it's most important parts of the population are quite near to the other aquatic warbler sites in Belarus, Ukraine, and other countries. So this is only the part of the global population, and we should remember about that all the time. The first source of data we're gathering is the Aquatic Warbler Monitoring Scheme, which considers of both transects and monitoring of small aquatic warbler sites. Then we use citizen science and Ornitho portal, where people give their observations via internet. I'm monitoring the records about aquatic warbler and trying to find new sites or new information about places we didn't know before. that aquatic warbler is present there. Then there is a direct data, because sometimes our colleagues, our friends call us and tell us that they found aquatic warbler in some places. And also we try to notice that and check those places later. And there are OTOP projects, recent and now working, in which we also do some field work, and sometimes we reveal something interesting, like new sites of aquatic warbler within a project of strengthening the aquatic warbler metapopulation in southeastern Poland. The project Jarosław Krogulec will talk about later. And combining this data all together, we have the estimation of the aquatic warbler population. I will focus mainly on the monitoring, and I will use the data available from the monitoring scheme. It started in 2012 and is done yearly. It has two subroutines: the monitoring of transects on the main aquatic warbler populations in Biebrza River Valley, in Bubnów Marsh, in Poleski National Park, and in Chełm Marshes. In Biebrza River Valley, we have 50 transects on the optimal aquatic warbler habitats, where it's the main and the core population of aquatic warbler in Poland. We also have the 30 transects on the suboptimal habitats, where aquatic birds are sometimes present. On some of them, they are present almost every year. Then in Poleski National Park, we have 10 transects on Bubnów and Staw marshes. And then near Chełm, we have also 10 transects on the Chełm-Kalsores marshes. Each transect is controlled every year, and there are 3 surveys made on each transect by 1 or 2 or 3 people. The exception are those 30 transects on Biebrza River Valley. Then the first control there is made every year, but if there is no singing males in the first control, the second and the third control is not made there that year. And in this part of monitoring, singing males are noted, and the estimated number of birds on the transect is the maximum of 3 controls. The data reported then consists every number, but the estimation of overall number of birds is the maximum. And also the main habitat information is gathered, the type of land use, the main group of plants, the water level, and suitability for aquatic warbler nesting. And important information for this and for the next slide is that the aquatic warbler monitoring is the part of the monitoring of birds in Poland, and it's totally financed by the National Fund for Environmental Protection and Water Management. We are the coordinator of the whole monitoring of birds in Poland and some programs like aquatic warbler monitoring. And we have the second subroutine in the aquatic warbler monitoring, which is the monitoring of small sites. These are all the places, all the sites across Poland where we have an information about historical or present occurrence of aquatic warbler singing males. And if someone gives us those information, or we have it from any source, we try to establish the monitoring site on this place to check if the presence of the bird was only once, or if it's the habitat that may be included in the population. This year we are changing a bit the formula of this part of the monitoring, because it started as a small land patches, but small means from about 50 hectares to over 1,000 hectares as a one monitoring area. And since 2021, we are changing this to small sites represented by center points of each place where aquatic warbler was found. We have 56 such points that will be checked this year, and it's about 30 to 32 old areas. So sometimes in one old area there are, for example, 3 or 4 new sites as the habitat is divided into smaller patches within the old area. And we try to notice the information about aquatic warbler present on each separately. And each site is monitored 2,000 a year in late May and early June, and then in late June and early July. Singing males are noted and both results are reported, but still the number estimated and included into the total estimation of number of aquatic warbler in Poland is the higher value from each site. Here you have the main populations of aquatic warblers. This division on smaller map is division into ornithological regions of Poland based on the 10 by 10 kilometer squares within there are birds monitored. And we have the Biebrza River Valley, mostly it's the area of Natura 2000 and Biebrza National Park, where we have those 80 transects. And the number is almost quite stable. About the year 2020, I will be talking a bit later because it's a very specific year. Then we have a Poleski National Park, which is 10 transects. This is data from the last 5 years, of course. And in Helm Marshes, also we have 10 transects with a quite maybe stable population. Then we have small sites. And there are about 60, but some of them are abandoned due to habitat loss, but they are still included in the monitoring scheme as recent places and historical data. We have also, I divided that into ornithological regions. So we have the main populations in Podlasie and Lublin region, then 3 new sites in Warmia and Mazury, Mazowsze, Wielkopolska and Ziemia Łódzka, and the Pomeranian population, which is here near the Odra River Valley. As you can see, there are different values on the axis of those in pictures. So it means that some small sites are not so small because there are, for example, about 60 or 40 singing males, and on most sites are 1 or 2 or 3. So gathering this data and putting it together, it's not quite good to represent all of them. So there will be some dividings. In Podlasie region, in 2018, there is a deep decrease of the number, but it depends only on that the Wisna Marsh site wasn't counted that year. And about 40 or 50 singing males, I think, were not included in the monitoring data just because there was no count on this one site. Then we have the sites added each year because the site subroutine of the monitoring started in 2013, and each year there are new sites added. As you can see, we started from about 20 or 30, and then we have about 60 this year. And the adding of new sites depends on the information we gather. If we have, as I said, if we have some information about the new site somewhere, we try to include the site into the monitoring. For example, last year, there were 3 sites in Warmia and Mazury. In 3 places, it was over 30 aquatic warbler singing males in those places. So there are new sites, and they will be monitoring since 2021 within the monitoring scheme. Then we have, as we are talking about the meta-populations, we have a proposed division into 4 meta-populations of aquatic warbler in Poland. This needs a wide discussion because this is only the proposal. I made this on the basis of the, as you can see, on the basis of the changes in those subpopulations. The central one does not have any source area. I think those birds are just inhabiting the suitable habitats during the migration maybe. It still needs a wide discussion. But 3 others have a strong core areas, source areas, like in Ławki Marsh, in Poleski, in Biebrza National Park, or in Lublin region, or Rozwarowskie Marsh in Pomeranian subpopulation. And those source areas are surrounded by small sites, and the number on small sites are quite similar, and the changes in numbers of small sites are quite similar to the changes on the source area. Within small sites, we have 10 small sites around the country which are stable. I mean, in every year of the monitoring, the aquatic warbler singing males are found there. In other places, it's like in one year there was about 1 or 2 singing males, and the next year there was none, and it changes. But 10 places are quite stable. These are 3 places in Biebrza River Valley. These are OTOP social reserves, and the counts are conducted by our colleague, the manager of the Biebrza part of OTOP reserves. Then we have Narew River Valley, quite stable. Only this year there was no singing male. Then Wisna Marsh, 2018, there was no count, so the number is 0, but aquatic warblers were still there, but we couldn't estimate the number. Then Ciesacin Marsh, the place was included in one of the live projects conducted by OTOP and restored, so we can see the number was increasing. And this year there was lack of water during the drought, and this is the result of the 0 number of singing males. Then Tyśmienica River Valley, a very specific place where there are flooded and wet meadows, but intensively used. It is often the situation that in the first count in late May, there are many aquatic warbler singing males, and in the second count in late June, there are the much lower number there. Then Ujście Warte National Park, and islands in the retrograde delta of River Świna. This is a part of Pomeranian population, but as aquatic warblers are present there on 1 or 2 or more of the islands, but in different years on different places, I treat all those sites as one in this consideration. And Rozwarowskie Marsh, where the population is decreasing, but aquatic warblers are still there. Now you can see the results of the 2 subroutines of aquatic warbler monitoring scheme. Firstly, the transect monitoring. As you can see, number of aquatic warblers count. These are only the birds that were heard by the observers. So the population of the whole area is bigger, but it needs an estimation on the basis of those numbers count. And the percent of occurrence means that we have 100 transects overall, and only on some of them aquatic warblers are present each year. We can see that there was an increase in 2017, 2018. This year was a very bad year for, 2020 was a very, very bad year for aquatic warbler, and since that, the percent of occupation is very low, the lowest in the monitoring so far, unfortunately. And if to present the results on aquatic warbler small sites, I used the number of sites controlled, that in our sites we hope and we check if aquatic warbler males are present, and the percent of occupied sites from this. So the 100%, I mean, the number of all sites is different each year, and the percent of all those controlled sites is showed here, because The number, as I said, is not a good way to present the results, because we have a few sites of very high numbers, like 50 or 60 singing males, and many places where there are 1 or 2 singing males. So the number, overall number, will depend mostly on those 2 or 3 sites with a high number of singing birds. And this is the detailed presentation of results of the transect monitoring, because we have three places where transects are set. In Biebrza River Valley, there was an increase then kind of plateau, and the decrease, large decrease in 2020 during the bad condition. Also, the percent of occupied transects, as you can see, decreased last year. In Poleski National Park, the number of males are quite stable, and the occupation is 100%. Every transect Aquatic Warbler singing males. It's a very optimistic information. And we have difference in home marshes, because the number of birds and the number of the percent of occupied transects was decreasing last years. But this year there was something different. Everywhere there were bad condition, and on home area it was quite better, because the percent of occupied transects increased very much. Now we can talk about the year 2020. It was very difficult for Aquatic Warbler, because we started with a drought in 2019, and the autumn of 2019 was almost without rain or any water. And then we had a warm and dry winter, 2018 to 2020, with almost lack of snow cover and rain. And it resulted in very low water level in rivers and in ground all over the aquatic warbler habitats. The lack of backwaters in rivers, in river valleys, like in Biebrza River Valley, in Biebrza River Valley, even Tyśmienica River Valley, increase the risk of fire, because people are still burning meadows in early spring, and the fires in 2020 were much more devastating than earlier. In Biebrza River Valley, we had a large fire, over 5,000 hectares burned. In Biebrza River Valley, as you can see on the picture up, there was in one place over 150 hectares. This is one of the Aquatic Warbler sites, this burned area. It was a terrible look to walk there, because when everything in nature was starting the new season, there was only a black area with the rest of plants. And the result was lower availability of wetland areas for birds in May. We noticed that there was quite lower number of aquatic warbler and other birds. In mid-June, there were heavy rains. For about a week or 10 days, there were almost every day a storm in Lublin region, and in many other regions in Poland. There was heavy storms and heavy rains that increased the water level in rivers, and for about 1 meter in smaller rivers like Tyśmienica. And after a strong drought, we have a strong flood, because the water flooded around the areas for over a half meter, and it was about 300 or even 400 meters from the riverbed that were flooded. And also the habitats were not available for many birds. And after the water level decreased, degradation of mosquitoes was noted. It was like when we were walking in field, the carpet of mosquitoes divided into insects over our knees. It was terrible. But I have some pictures of area with the mosquitoes as a main object in the picture. So it was also hard for animals. Now we can say about threats of the population of aquatic warbler in Poland. Besides the drought and fires, which are almost everywhere a problem, we have also a kind of problem with, in Biebrza National Park, because there were delays in agreements between the National Park Administration, which is representing the Polish government, and farmers who conduct mowing on park areas. And if there was a delay in the agreement, also it was the mowing was delayed or abandoned in that year. So we can now say that there is a risk of overgrowing there. In Polski National Park, the main threat is plans of for the construction of a hard coal mine near the Polski National Park. Also, the existing coal mine plans to increase the work. So this may be also difficult for birds. Professor Grzywaczewski may say much more about this. And marshes near Helm, also drought fires. We have a large fire in one of the Helm reserves in Sobowice last year, and other reserve partly was on fire. And changes of groundwater level. Also on small sites we have some threats, mainly drought, mainly overgrowing and habitat loss. 3 places are now excluded from the monitoring because of the habitat loss. The abandonment on some use on some lands, and also drying by melioration. In some places, the existing melioration leads to dehydration of the area, and changes of use and fires. Fires. Unfortunately, last year when I was controlling our project sites, almost everywhere I saw or the fire or the signs of fire. Once I was even calling the fire department because the fire was still there. But there are perspectives of the population. Sometimes they are optimistic. Main impact of the biggest subpopulations, I think, will be still present. This is one of the reasons that aquatic warbler was considered in the red list of Polish birds, because even if the population is slightly increasing, the number of populations slightly increasing, it depends mostly on the biggest areas, and the small areas are still not so well. There are projects, for example, the project conducted by OTOP that lead to enhancing the habitat situation value of some small sites. There are new sites of aquatic warbler are revealed, and I think this is both the very optimistic result of that people go and look for aquatic warbler and inform us about that they found some new birds. And there is also, I think, consequence of spreading the population with some new sites. And what is important, the survey in 2021 will be very important for our information about aquatic warbler, because after the sharp decline in 2020, you will see that if the decline was only dependent to a bad condition in 2020, or if it will have further consequences for the population. The weather now seems promising. We have a lot of water in many places. We have quite good early spring. It looks that the spring will be also quite good for birds, for habitats. So I'm optimistic. I hope this numbers of aquatic warbler will increase, and we will have still the stable population with only one bad year, not the bad trend these times. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you, Krzysztof. Thank you very much. One thing I learned is that we had, in fact, 7 singing males in Pomerania, not only 5. So,
yeah,
but
seven found. I hope there were more, but not noticed.
I don't really believe. Yeah,
it's always a hope.
Yeah. Okay, we have 10 minutes for questions if you want. So if somebody would like to put a question, to raise its hand. Oh, yeah, Jarek, please.
Yes, I would like to stress one issue about the conservation problems with aquatic warbler sites. Of course, there are big problems on Biebrza, also with fires and droughts, and one of the most dangerous threats for Poleski National Park, for Bagno Bubnów, with this coal mine under the mire. But I would now focus on this so-called small sites. I mean, these sites where potential, whether the potential recovery sites for aquatic warbler, probably they return to the old sites, or at least take over the sites which have the habitat good enough for the breeding. I think they are very important for conservation, but they are very difficult to work with them because they are scattered within the Poland, very often outside of the protected areas like Natura 2000 sites and so on. And what is most important, they are not eligible mainly for the agro-environmental schemes, at least within the current programming period. Within the current programming period, according to the bird schemes, they are only eligible within SPA, special protected areas. So even if we have the aquatic warbler sites in other Natura 2000 sites, not SPA, they are not eligible, and farmers in effect just use this meadow or this mire for other type of schemes, so damage the habitat which is good for aquatic warbler. So in effect, we now are working together through Wetland Committee, but also with Ministry of Agriculture in Poland to change this and to be available aquatic warbler schemes for all sites, all potential sites which are within the state monitoring of birds, state monitoring of aquatic warbler. So I would like to stress that they are very important, such sites. They should be protected by local directorates for environmental protection. So I am very happy that we have, for example, the representative from Mazovia area. So these are very important sites for a future of aquatic warbler. Thank you.
Yes, I can add one thing more because, as Jarek said, there is an issue with introducing AEMs into aquatic warbler sites where there is no protection. But also we need to some kind of proof that the aquatic warbler is there beside the expertise. So one of the proposals was to combine the AEMs and the aquatic warbler monitoring site areas, those small sites, and to have a kind of administrative form of improvement that aquatic warbler is there. And this is also the reason that we try to include into the monitoring all the sites we know aquatic warbler is there, or was there, or was seen there, and try to gather all those sites within the monitoring.
Okay, yeah, that seems to be very important to gather all information about these small sites. And I have one question myself. Do you have any information about reproductivity of the aquatic warblers in the small sites? Do you have breeding records? Do you have indication of successful breeding? Could be also very important.
Yeah, it could be very important. Unfortunately, I don't have this information. I mainly focus on the numbers and the occupation of sites. But maybe our colleagues from universities who are working scientifically about the aquatic warbler, maybe they would say something more about this, because maybe some of them are interested in this subject. I unfortunately, I don't know if there are aquatic warbler only singing, or if they are breeding, or if there is any success in breeding there.
Because I will tell it later today, but we had some aquatic warblers with geolocators, which have been on the way to Serbia and Lithuania, which stopped in Poland, in Missouri and so on, and also in Kaliningrad region, and even in mid-May. And then they continued their travel to breeding sites in the last decade of May. So,
yeah, so this is the reason that we do 2 counts on those places in late May, and then in late June and early July. And we have confirmation if the singing male is still there. It's the information that it's connected with this place, and it's not only the stopover during the migration.
Yeah.
And the numbers in the first and the second count are quite similar, and sometimes in the second count even they are a bit higher. For example, 2 to 3 or 3 to 5. Like that in some places.
Yeah, okay. I think Jarek would like to say something about.
Yes, but Asia Vorskevich was the first, so maybe lady first, and then I will continue.
Okay, then. Joanna, you have the word.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the voice. Krzysiek, I have one question about Cieszyń Reserve. Do you think that the lack of water this year and also the very low level in lakes nearby, like Grabniak, it can be connected with the coal mine in Bogdanka?
It's a difficult question, because the year 2020 was terrible if we speak about the water level. And even if it would be connected with Bogdanka, it's hard to define because of the lack of water everywhere. For example, in Tyśmienica, the water level was about a meter or 80 centimeters lower than the ground beside, and after rains, the river flooded. So there was a total drought in many places. I cannot say it is possible, but I cannot say that it would be the main reason or the reason or something. I'm sorry, but this year was untypical, totally untypical in every places. And this is not the situation on Cieszyń only, but on almost every aquatic warbler site in eastern Poland, because everyone who made the monitoring, every observer reported that there is a lack of water everywhere, in river valleys, in sites out of river valleys. There was a lack of water almost everywhere. Even our site on the Korowie Bagno nearby, beside the Polski National Park, the marsh and on the former lake is quite good hydrated, but the water level also was a bit lower than usual, and besides, meadows were dry. So there was a big problem with water everywhere, and I cannot say that this is the reason. It may be, but
okay. Thank you. And I have also the answer for Martin. When I was working and drinking and also counting for the Aquatic Warbler monitoring on Tyśmienica Valley, so the little spot on Lublin area, I found the nest of the Aquatic Warbler and the alarming female. And during that day, also mowing tractors were just working. So in my opinion, the Tyśmienica Valley is very, very good place for the Aquatic Warbler. And the problem over there is that in the middle of breeding season of the Aquatic Warblers, they are mowing. So Aquatic Warbler sushis yeah, but I have a proof of breeding over there. It was in 2017, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, thank you very much, Joanna. And there's still Jarek on the list.
Yes, so I would stress that this potential productivity study and generally the study of the connectivity of the small sites with the source areas are very challenging for research. And I would ask potential researchers from universities to consider this, because it's very important. Maybe future technologies allowed it to make it easier, but it is really important and I think also fruitful in effect after good research. I propose to return with this discussion, I mean to research during the Aquatic Warbler Conservation Team meeting when we can have this in agenda.
Yes, thank you very much. That's a very good proposal. I have also more questions about the habitat management and mowing in Biebsza, where there seem to be some problems, bigger or smaller, don't know. Maybe we discuss it tomorrow in our Aquatic Warbler Conservation Team meeting. But now it's time for a coffee break. We are just in time, it's 11:30. So you have the opportunity to refresh and to make a break. And Jarek, who shares the next session, is it you?
No, the second session is Torsten, as far as I remember.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. He's with us. Okay, he knows. Okay, see you in half an hour.
Yeah, so you can leave the Zoom open. You can just switch off microphones and also cameras. But of course, you can also go out and return back to using the same link. So there are two possibilities. So thank you and see you soon. And unfortunately, you should grab your own coffee. It is no any catering provided within this seminar.
Yeah, that's a mistake of a fault of Zoom.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, and see you soon.